The suspect in a deadly shooting in Brown County is now in the hospital himself. The Clinton County Sheriff's Office tells us 41-year-old Jason Metcalf was airlifted to the hospital last night after pulling out a weapon at the end of the pursuit spanning multiple counties. Deputies say shots were fired and Metcalf was injured. There's no word on his condition. Cincinnati police officers now have a description of the car that hit and seriously injured a motorcycle rider in the West End. That car is described as a dark-colored Toyota Camry, 2008 to 2012 model year. The driver of that car hit Mikhail Landrum on his motorcycle earlier this week near the intersection of Winchell Avenue and Ezard Charles Drive. Runners will hit the streets later this morning just a few blocks away during the 14th annual Over-the-Rhine 5K Run Walk. The race starts at 9 a.m. at Washington Park. It's a fundraiser for the OTR Chamber and it's being held in the fall for the first time ever. You may recall last year's race was canceled due to the pandemic. Taylor?
More active weather returns across the tri-state, but the first half of your Saturday will be dry. By 8 o'clock, we'll see temperatures still in the lower 50s. And later this afternoon, we will warm into the lower 80s. Those rain chances really ramp up about 3 or 4 this afternoon. But as we head into your Sunday, we will see those rain chances continuing and throughout the overnight hours. Tonight, a low of 63 with mostly cloudy skies.
Hey guys, good morning. You know, a lot of times what I go back to when people ask me what the key to a football game is, a lot of times I go back to third downs and turnovers. When you win those two categories, you give yourself a pretty good chance. But I mean, that's at any level of football in any game, really. As for today's game, what I'm going to be looking for is how much time Cincinnati's quarterback, Desmond Ridder, has to throw the football. Because I'll tell you what, when you give that guy the chance to just kind of sit back in the pocket, go through his reads and make a smart decision, Cincinnati is a dangerous football team. It's kind of like David and Goliath, right? A non-power conference school, Cincinnati, up against one of the perennial powers nationally, Notre Dame. But in this version of it, David is the favorite in this thing. If Cincinnati does find a way to win this game, it could go down as the most impactful win in Cincinnati football history.
It's big. We're not going to lie to you, you know. But like I said, once the thing's kicked off, you can't let all the emotions of all the different stuff that's going on affect you and how you go about things.
All right, now it's still very early in the season, but of course everybody wants to talk about college football playoffs and what a win over Notre Dame might do for Cincinnati when it comes to that. And no, I don't think it would put them in like a driver's seat situation for that, but I think it would put them squarely in the heart of that conversation, and it would certainly open a lot of eyes if Cincinnati could beat Notre Dame here in South Bend. They'll have a chance to do it this afternoon, and we will break it all down for you tonight at 11 o'clock here on WCPO. I will be inside the stadium here in just a few hours, guys.
3 weeks ago, first responders in northern Kentucky drove this route as they transported a 13-year-old girl in crisis who required immediate psychiatric care. Emergency communication records show first responders couldn't take her to Sun Behavioral Health Psychiatric Hospital in Erlanger because the hospital was on diversion. Sun says it's been on full or partial diversion status on 1 out of every 3 days since August 1st.
There's not enough beds available.
Medrick McLaughlin, CEO of Sun's Erlanger Hospital, says COVID has taken a toll that's created a surge in demand for services, especially for adolescents. He says the nursing shortage has also reduced the number of beds available.
Even if I opened up another unit, we'd still at times be at capacity.
Emergency communication records show St. Elizabeth Edgewood was also on diversion status for some patients twice during the recent COVID surge. Krista Heisen with the Health Collaborative says Ohio doesn't use the term diversion.
There is no diversion status. We have at capacity, and then we have something called limited operations, which could mean, hey, the x-ray machine is down or something like that.
Emergency communication records show during the recent COVID surge, University of Cincinnati Medical Center issued 9 notifications that it was at capacity. Mercy West was at capacity 10 times. Christ Hospital, 13 times. Some notifications covered less than an hour. Others covered a full 8-hour shift.
They may say, hey, we are at capacity. And that just tells those EMS and our first responders that, hey, maybe don't go to this hospital because it's crowded.
The capacity at many local hospitals has increased as COVID cases dropped, but experts say COVID's impact and the need for more capacity for patients is a long-term problem. In Erlanger, Craig Cheatham, WCPO 9 I-Team.
From the outside, this building looks pretty unassuming. But an ambitious group of women is transforming the facility into a magical, nurturing place for nearly 200 children.
Our nursery.
Ashley Kennemore describes the children as being underrepresented, marginalized youth of color in need of educational support. Through her organization, High Achievers Aim High, Kennemore and her two co-founders have been uplifting kids through tutoring, wellness, and entrepreneurship programs. As a teacher for Cincinnati Public Schools, Kennemore saw that
there were just so many students coming in that were like grade levels behind where they were supposed to be. That really had me like, we need something that we can be a support system for the school. Schools can't do it all by themselves.
But she says there's a bigger reason why youth education services are so badly needed in the Coleraine area. Gentrification in neighborhoods like Over-the-Rhine have pushed out lower to mid-income families, especially Black residents, to suburbs on the west side and northern parts of Hamilton County. Local schools now have more diverse student populations with greater socioeconomic need, but parents say their kids are being neglected.
If you're inner city, then you have the Boys and Girls Club, you have different after-school programs to help, summer programs to help those children. You come up this way and there's nothing.
Something like this is much needed.
High Achievers is looking to raise $300,000 at tomorrow's event. The money will be spent on furniture, renovations, and supplies. In Coleraine Township, I'm Monique John, WCPO 9 News.
Did have a little fear when I read that because I thought golf ball could do some damage.
This sign on the Wasson Way Trail in Hyde Park caught the attention of David Campbell right away. So did the golf balls.
There were a bunch of kids who obviously knew that there were errant golf balls up on the banks, and they were scrambling around trying to find them. And there were plenty to be found.
This new portion of the trail is just feet away from the driving range of the Hyde Park Country Club. During construction, crews say golf balls often hit the trees around them. This photo shows what happened when a golf ball smashed the window of a construction vehicle in June.
That was an eye-opener for the city.
City Solicitor Andrew Garth sent the country club this letter in August warning them of liability.
The Hyde Park Golf Club leadership will have to come to grips with the fact that they may have some real liability to the users of the trail if something were to go wrong.
The city wants the country club to install a higher net to catch stray balls. So far, the city says the country club has not agreed to pay for the netting, which costs $200,000 to $300,000. But Garth says the club has agreed to temporary changes, moving the direction of its driving range and only allowing members to use iron clubs instead of drivers so balls don't travel as far. But that's not enough for the city.
Right now, we're at something of an impasse.
Garth says taxpayer funds will not be used to pay for improvements to a private country club. He isn't ruling out filing a civil nuisance action against the country club as a last resort. In the meantime, the city installed signs to warn the public of danger that he says is unlikely but possible. Mary Tracy of Hyde Park will still take her daily walks with caution.
Unless someone gets hurt, but hopefully keep our fingers crossed it won't.
I'm here outside City Hall where the solicitor said the city had to put up those signs to warn the public. This tiny golf ball can actually do a lot of damage when it's traveling over 100 miles an hour, from a concussion to cerebral bleeding to, in very rare cases, death. Paula Christian, WCPO 9, I-Team.
Well, this is really a story of two different people with two different backgrounds coming together all to make sure one woman would be safe. Jesse Webster tells me this is where it all unfolded on Riverside Drive.
For a split second, you know, I seen the knife and I can still picture the knife in my head.
It's the early afternoon on June 18th. Webster says he was driving a truck for his construction job, passing by the Montgomery Inn Boathouse when something didn't seem right. Webster says a man was chasing his girlfriend in the middle of the road.
So I slowed down. I don't really know why. More of just thinking maybe the voice of reason, you know, kind of break it up like, hey.
He jumped out of the truck and the situation escalated quick. According to the police report, the man held a utility knife to the woman's throat.
I remember having a little brief thought of, oh my God, he's about to kill this woman. Because it looked to me like he was literally in a stabbing motion. And I thought to myself, like, I just can't let this happen, you know. And let the chips fall where they may.
Webster went all in to save the stranger's life. Meanwhile, Alex Miller, a man working valet at the boathouse nearby, also stepped in.
He fell and braced himself on that arm that had the knife on the ground. And I just jumped on that hand, both my hands, and started putting all my weight down. And he's trying to jerk the knife away. And Alex said, "He's got a knife." And I said, "I know, help me." And he didn't hesitate. He jumped around his back, started choking him.
Tuesday, Miller and Webster honored.
Jesse Webster did knowingly and without hesitation act heroically to render aid to another.
Both receiving the police department's highest civilian recognition, an act of bravery. Webster says he's glad he was in the right place at the right time, but he doesn't think of himself as a hero.
He's trying to be a good parent and a good husband and good worker.
In the East End, Jake Ryle, WCPO 9 News.
I'm a little more comfortable with it now.
Matthew Hughes and his entire family stopped by the Hamilton County 513 Relief Clinic in North College Hill Tuesday, all of them getting their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. The family decided to get shots after noticing more and more vaccine mandates, including the one for Hughes's new job in healthcare.
It was more of a nervous thing for me, really. I didn't really trust it. Didn't really want to. I don't really like the fact somebody telling me that I have to do it, but unfortunately that's the way it is nowadays.
Hamilton County is also offering Pfizer's booster shot for those who are eligible. It's recommended right now for people 65 or older, and the CDC says people over 18 can get a booster if they have certain underlying medical conditions, work in high-risk settings such as healthcare workers, or live in high-risk settings.
We try to break down any barriers that there may be to education, reluctance, hesitancy.
Vaccinations are one big part of the 513 relief bus, but it also connects neighbors with financial support and other programs to help them get through the pandemic.
It's a buffet of relief, and we're bringing the resources to the people instead of the people trying to find the resources. It's already stressful enough.
Along with free at-home test kits, the assistance from Hamilton County at the bus stops includes help with rent and utility bills. Employees are also there to explain other resources like SNAP food benefits, Medicaid, and child care support.
We're not contained. We are doing our best to ensure that we hit all underserved communities.
In North College Hill, Josh Bazan, WCPO 9 News.
Kindness is a core value here at Mason Early Childhood Center, and a former student really took that to heart for an Eagle Scout project that you will have to see to believe.
It has a lot of fun things to do, and it can calm you down really goodly.
Camden Crump and Dallas Meeker love this courtyard called MECC Moves.
I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Adam Weaver created the space as his Eagle Scout project.
It's like a lot of running, jumping, different sort of motor skills, and it really accomplishes two goals. The first one is kind of straightforward. You tire them out, they focus more in class if they're tired out. The other one is a little bit more scientific one. It helps develop motor skills.
I was super impressed.
Melissa Bly is principal of Mason Early Childhood Center. She sponsored Adam's project.
I think that he is a great role model for our students, and having been a student that came through MECC and just knowing that he really wanted to give back, he reflected on how he could best contribute to the school.
The MECC Moves courtyard has hopscotch, bear stomps, leapfrogs, jumping jacks, skipping, a crab walk, and so much more. Mrs. Bly's magical rock garden is surrounded by benches made with recycled tires, and rocks painted like sharks warn the kids to keep out where it's not safe.
He really thought of everything and everyone.
I definitely learned a whole lot doing this.
Things like leadership skills and how to install artificial turf, plus a lesson about how one act of kindness can lead to more.
I was really impressed with the generosity of everyone, where like I would say, oh, I'm working on an Eagle Scout project, and they would be like, we can give you a discount on that, without like me prompting it or anything.
All that kindness has certainly paid off.
Thank you, and thank you for the place. It's really fun.
Adam is still working through the final steps to become an Eagle Scout. He's got this whole school rooting for him. In Mason, I'm Lucy May, WCPO 9 News.
This is so much more than a car to John Barry. It was his mother's, and he's been searching for it for decades.
It's been just exciting. It's been
sentimental, and it's brought back a lot of memories for me.
John Berry's father bought this Cutlass Supreme lime green convertible for his mother, Janice Berry, in 1971.
I remember my mom getting in, putting the top down, putting a scarf around her head, and putting her sunglasses on and going for a ride.
John's mother, Janice, passed away unexpectedly when he was 15.
The car stayed with my dad for about 4 or 5 years, and he finally eventually decided to sell it. And at the time, I didn't have much interest in it, but as the years went on, the more I thought about this car and the memories all of us kids had in it.
John says he never had the chance to keep any of his mom's personal belongings after she passed. So John tracked down the man that purchased the car in hopes of purchasing it himself. His mother's Cutlass Supreme now belonged to a man in Rapid City, Michigan, but the owner wasn't interested in selling the car.
And for about 20 to 22 years, I stayed in contact with that gentleman.
And after years of trying, the owner had a change of heart. He called John and said he was ready to sell it.
He's a gentleman who's 81 years old, and he said, I got to thinking about your desire for the car and, you know, the number of years that I'll have to be able to drive it and enjoy it, and he said, I think it was time to let it go.
Yesterday, John was reunited with his mother's car.
In the glove box was a pair of my mom's sunglasses, some papers that she had written maps on, and some earrings and some stamps that she had kept in there, and those have remained in the car since her passing. So that was another trip down memory lane.
John says being reunited with his mom's car after all these years is truly a dream come true. Reporting from Burlington, Kentucky, Taylor Nimmo, WCPO 9 News.
Go! Drive, eyes up. Taft sophomore Elias Rudolph has a drive to succeed this season for the Senators.
The game of football, I love it. Like, I've been playing since I was 7 years old, and I don't think I'm going to stop anytime soon. I just want to show the people all the work I done put in.
Rudolph's dedication to the sport is paying off. He plays a variety of positions, including defensive end, linebacker, wide receiver, tight end, and on special teams. He has received scholarship offers from UC, Bowling Green, and Buffalo. Ohio State and Notre Dame are among the other schools who've shown interest.
He has this motor. He never stops. He's always willing to get better. He hit a 360 when we first got here. He was another kid that was on the edge of buying in. Yes, he was a great athlete, but we told him, your grades got to be good. You got to do right in the community.
Rudolph, who also plays basketball and runs track at Taft, has a sharp focus on his future. He has a 3.0 grade point average and has an interest in studying business in college.
I was a class clown until I changed my life around. Like you said, I had a 360, so it's just like I'm just more about the books now. Like at first I wasn't really into my grades, but now I see that my grades is really important, and I want